Your overhead story channel, enjoy.
Ashley always had this way of making a room bend around her. That afternoon on the rooftop in Austin was no exception. She was magnetic, poised, thriving in the warm breeze and the champagne glow of professional success. Her team had just launched a major campaign that apparently outperformed every metric, and she was glowing in the kind of praise that seemed to lift her above the rest of us. She had invited me to this event a few days earlier, a rare thing. Lately, I hadn't been part of many aspects of her life outside our home. Caught me off guard when she asked. She mentioned wanting me to see what she'd been building, which sounded genuine at the time. I accepted, thinking maybe this was her way of pulling me back in. Maybe things hadn't drifted as far as I feared. We were on the 20th floor of some modern glass and steel building downtown. The rooftop was ringed with string lights, greenery in concrete planters, and sleek lounge seating. It was the kind of place you'd expect influencers to stage product shoots, not marketing teams to eat catered tapas. Someone in HR was playing a curated playlist from their phone, all upbeat indie songs with names I didn't recognize. Around me, conversations swirled, inside jokes about deadlines, client screw-ups, office politics. The sort of insider banter that made outsiders like me feel like ghosts. I kept sipping my drink, trying to stay out of the way. I recognized maybe two faces, though none of them greeted me like they remembered me. Even the intern, fresh out of college, seemed to have more standing than I did. Ashley stood at the center of it all, radiant in a fitted white dress, heels clicking against the stone as she floated from one group to the next. Her hair was pinned back in a loose twist, and the gold in her earrings caught the light like tiny flames. It struck me then, in the middle of everything, this woman, my wife, belonged to a different world now. Or maybe she always had. Still, I smiled when she looked over, nodded when she introduced me as my husband, the guy who still can't believe I work in advertising. Like I was some charming relic she dusted off for special occasions. I played the role. I laughed when I was supposed to. I even made small talk with one of her junior colleagues about a show we both liked. Everything about the afternoon felt polished and pleasant. Until it didn't. It happened so fast I almost doubted I saw it at all. Ashley had set her phone down earlier, face up, right next to her champagne glass. I wasn't watching it, not exactly. Just scanning the table while listening to a guy across from me talk about a failed product launch. Then the screen lit up. A name. T.M. Speech balloon. And beneath it, the start of a message. Last night was. I didn't see the rest. Ashley saw my eyes flick toward the screen. In one fluid motion, she reached for the phone and snatched it off the table. Her thumb locked the screen instantly. She didn't flinch, didn't stutter, just smiled like it was a gnat buzzing in the air. Just work stuff, she said. A soft, airy tone, not even looking directly at me. I'll check it later. Then she tucked the phone into her purse. Not her clutch, but the larger shoulder bag she never brought to events unless she was trying to stash something. I tried to keep my expression still, but something in me had already shifted. My stomach tightened without my permission. A quiet throb started in the back of my neck. The conversation around us hadn't paused. No one else at the table had noticed, but I had. T.M. I ran the initials through my mind, fast and silent. I knew most of her coworkers, at least by name. I couldn't recall anyone on her team with those initials. Maybe it was a client or a vendor. Maybe. But the emoji? That chat bubble? It wasn't the kind of thing you tagged onto a client contact. It was personal, familiar, int asterisk mate. And the message last night was, there was no corporate meeting that warranted a message starting like that. Not unless someone had confused a pitch deck for pillow talk. I didn't say anything. What could I say? Hey, that text looked suspicious. Care to read it aloud? It would have made me look paranoid, and she would have turned it into a joke. Or worse, feigned offense. So I just nodded and sipped my drink, the bubbles now sharp on my tongue. Ashley leaned in to whisper something to her assistant. I caught none of it, and then laughed at a joke someone made about a champagne spill. She was back in control within seconds. But I wasn't. I sat there, barely hearing anything, watching her play her part while mine unraveled. There's a special kind of quiet panic that comes when your body realizes something before your brain does. A sort of sixth sense. I felt it then. A cold certainty in my chest, even as I tried to talk myself down. You're overthinking this. Maybe it's just a friend. Could be harmless. But the truth is, I didn't believe any of those things. Ashley's face had changed. Just subtly. A slight tension in her jaw. A practiced smoothness in the way she shifted conversation away from the interruption. It wasn't guilt. It was rehearsed. She'd prepared for the possibility of being caught off guard, and she'd handled it flawlessly. It wasn't the kind of reaction you have when you've got nothing to hide. I glanced at her wine glass. Her lipstick had barely smudged. She looked perfect, composed. Meanwhile, I felt like someone had quietly knocked the wind out of me. There's no manual for moments like this. No clear line between paranoia and instinct. You just sit there, stunned, trying to keep up with the version of reality you'd lived in up until a few seconds ago. One where your wife invites you to celebrate with her team because she's proud of you, because she loves you, because you still matter. Now I didn't know why she'd invited me. Maybe guilt, maybe pity, or maybe it was a power move, a final performance before the curtains started to fall. I kept my smile. I thanked the catering team. I nodded politely when Ashley introduced me to her creative director, who made a weird joke about couples working in opposite hemispheres. But I was already gone. Not physically. Not yet. But something had snapped. Not loud, not even painful. Just final. When the celebration wrapped up and everyone moved toward the elevators, Ashley looped her arm through mine like nothing had changed. Her grip was light, familiar, but I didn't squeeze back. Couldn't. As we descended toward the lobby, she turned to me, her voice just above a whisper. "Thanks for coming today," she said, smiling up at me. It meant a lot. I looked at her, really looked, and nodded. "Sure," I replied. But what I wanted to say was, I saw it. I saw the message. I saw what you tried to hide. And I knew, even then, that I'd never see her the same way again. Looking back, the signs weren't sudden. They never are. Affairs don't arrive with flashing neon warnings. They sneak in through small shifts, subtle glances, changes in tone. It's like fog. You don't notice how thick it is until you realize you can't see anything clearly anymore. After the rooftop lunch, that message from T.M. Speech balloon became the moment where everything clicked. But the truth? The cracks had been forming long before that day. That text was just the first time I couldn't explain it away anymore. I had tried. God, I had tried. It started almost a year earlier. Ashley began staying later at work, which at first made sense. Her team had picked up a huge client in tech and she was running point. I was proud of her. I made dinner. I kept the house quiet. I told her I admired her ambition and I meant it. But the late nights turned into late weekends, and those turned into entire weekends away. Conferences, client summits, team retreats, all very official sounding. And maybe some of them were real, but the excuses became predictable. She'd come home at 11 p.m., muttering about how exhausting things had been. She always made sure to drop corporate buzzwords, conversion funnels, engagement metrics, rebranding cycles. Just enough detail to sound convincing. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But then the cologne started. Not mine. I wear the same subtle brand I've worn for years. What she came home smelling like was sharper, muskier, not cheap, but not familiar either. Once I asked her about it. She wrinkled her nose and laughed, brushing it off. "Oh, my Uber driver was swimming in cologne," she said, waving a hand. Seriously, it was like being stuck in a perfume factory. I nodded, smiled, let it go. But it happened again and again. No Uber in the world is that consistent. Then there were the coffee cups. One Saturday, I borrowed her car while mine was in the shop. I was halfway to the grocery store when I saw them, 2 paper cups in the cup holders. One had a lipstick smudge that matched hers. The other had a name written on the lid, T. That alone wouldn't have meant much, except someone had drawn a tiny smiley face under the letter. And Ashley doesn't draw smiley faces. Not even in birthday cards. I didn't say anything when I got home. I just returned her keys, and she barely looked up from her phone. I remember watching her scroll with her thumb, her expression blank and distant, and wondering if she even remembered I'd been gone. More things began to shift. Subtle, sure, but cumulatively undeniable. Her wardrobe changed. Before, she was the queen of comfort, sweatpants, hoodies, oversized t-shirts at home. But lately, everything was sharper. Laced nightwear I'd never seen before. Dresses that hugged in places she never tried to accentuate. Heels again. At first, I figured she wanted to feel more confident at work. But she stopped wearing those clothes around me. They weren't for me. They never were. I'd come home from my own job to find her already dressed like she was heading out again. Makeup fresh, eyes distant. She'd kiss my cheek like an afterthought, telling me she was meeting the team for drinks, or getting a late start on a presentation. Sometimes she'd come home past midnight. Other times she'd say she was crashing at a colleague's place downtown because it was closer to the office. Ashley had always been independent. I loved that about her. But this was different. This was her building a world where I wasn't invited. And then there was Trevor, her son from her first marriage. When Ashley and I got together, he was 8. I'd watched him grow into a smart, sarcastic, tech-obsessed teenager. We weren't best friends, but we had something real. He used to call me Jay, short for Jason, casual, affectionate. He'd ask me for help with homework, for rides to school. He used to wait for me to get home before starting certain shows because he liked watching them together. Then one day he stopped waiting. Then he stopped asking me things. Then he stopped calling me Jay. He just started saying my full name, Jason, flat and distant, like I was a teacher or a neighbor. I remember one dinner where he asked, "Is Jason going to be eating with us?" While I was standing in the next room. Ashley didn't correct him. She didn't even look up. Just said, "He's got work stuff." I didn't have work stuff. I was right there. I sat through that dinner in silence while they talked about people I didn't know, laughed at jokes I wasn't part of. I had never felt more like a guest in my own home. The routines Ashley and I once shared disappeared one by one. Sunday coffee runs, movie nights, cooking together, even the mundane things, folding laundry together, bickering over what to watch on TV, all vanished, replaced by formality, distance, scripts. The house became quiet, but not peaceful, just quiet and sterile. She stopped touching me. That was the final signal I kept trying to ignore. For months, we hadn't had anything close to real Macy. She always had an excuse, tired, stressed, overworked, and I respected that. I didn't press. But you can't keep pretending something's fine when even a goodnight kiss starts feeling like an obligation. I once reached for her hand on the couch, and she flinched like I'd startled her. Then she gave a tight smile and returned to scrolling through her phone. That phone, always with her, never left unattended, locked with facial recognition only. I used to know her passcode, we both knew each other's, but she changed hers without saying a word. Said something about new IT policies at work. I didn't push, but I noticed. God, I noticed everything. Like the sudden drop in how often she used our shared calendar. She used to log everything, meetings, appointments, even dinner dates. But now there were blank days. Lots of them. Days when she was busy but nothing showed up. When I asked, she'd sigh and say, "I must have forgotten to log it." But Ashley doesn't forget. She color-coded vacations. I started testing things. Small tests. I'd ask her to pick up something on her way home. Almond milk, a charger for Trevor, dog treats. Simple stuff. She forgot. Over and over. Not because she was forgetful, but because her mind was somewhere else. Or with someone else. She'd still thank me when I paid for groceries. Still let me fill her gas tank. Still accepted the back rubs when she claimed her neck was sore. But nothing came back the other way. I felt like a valet in a suit, waiting at the curb for a life I used to belong to. Once I asked if she wanted to take a weekend trip. Just the two of us. Something simple. She hesitated and said, "Maybe next quarter. Things are just so busy." And I swear, she didn't even look up from her laptop when she said it. I started spending more time in the garage, fixing things that didn't need fixing, reorganizing shelves I'd already organized. I think it made me feel useful, like I had control over something, anything. I'd sit in my car with the door closed, just listening to old playlists from when we were still us. I'd scroll through photos from years ago, vacations, birthdays, nights on the couch with our dog between us. Sometimes I wondered if she did the same. If maybe, just maybe, she missed us too. But I stopped asking, because the truth was obvious. She didn't. And the worst part? I don't think she even noticed how far she had drifted. But I did. I saw it all, the cracks, the coldness, the rewrites of our shared script. And somewhere deep inside, I began rewriting my own. Because when someone pulls away that hard, that deliberately, there's only so long you can chase after them before you realize you're the only one running. Sometimes the truth doesn't crash into your life. It drips. A slow leak. Steady. Inescapable. You can patch it with denial, distraction, even hope, but eventually, it floods the room. That's how it felt the night I opened the cloud account. It wasn't even intentional, not really. I wasn't digging. Not yet. I'd helped Ashley set it up years ago when she got a new phone. Some automatic sync thing to back up her photos and documents to a shared drive we could both access. I'd forgotten all about it. She probably had too. I only remembered because I was searching for a tax form from 3 years back. Her W-2 had been misfiled and I figured maybe, just maybe, she'd uploaded it there at some point. I didn't even think about her photos until I saw the album folder pop up. It was labeled in her usual shorthand, Q4_client_trip_ATX, Austin. I almost clicked past it, assuming it was all branding decks and work selfies, maybe a few hotel conference room snaps *TS. But something made me pause. That same instinct that had been whispering to me for months, the one I kept silencing. I clicked. The images loaded slowly. A few *TS of signage from a hotel lobby. A blurred photo of a crowded networking event. A picture of a plated dessert she must have thought looked impressive. Then, I froze. There was a mirror selfie. Ashley standing in a dimly lit hotel bathroom. She was wearing a black dress. Fitted, backless. The one she told me she bought for a client appreciation dinner. Her makeup was heavier than usual. Her lipstick a darker shade. She looked different. Not posed. Not casual. Intentional. I stared at it for a long time. Then I swiped to the next. And that's when my world shifted. It was a photo taken in a hotel room, maybe the same night, maybe later. The lighting was soft, yellow-toned, the kind you find in boutique hotels trying too hard to be trendy. Ashley was lying on the bed. Not asleep. Not posed. Just lying there, facing the camera. Next to her, a man. Only part of him was visible. His face wasn't in the frame, but his hand was tattooed. A clean black line wrapping from his wrist to his elbow. A small emblem, a compass or star, inked near the base of his thumb. He wore a leather bracelet. I knew that bracelet. I'd seen it once before, on a man who worked in Ashley's office. Not on her team, but in the same building. He'd come to our housewarming party 2 years ago. He brought whiskey and barely spoke to me. His name escaped me then. It doesn't now. The photo was time-stamped exactly 6 weeks earlier. A Friday. She told me she was going out of town that weekend for a strategic alignment session with upper leadership. I remember because she'd left in a rush, telling me not to wait up. Said she'd be too tired to talk once she landed. The truth sat there on the screen, clearer than anything I dared to imagine. It wasn't emotional distance anymore. It wasn't lack of *Macy, late meetings, or missing coffee runs. It was this image, this bed, this man, this betrayal. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the screen. Could have been 5 minutes or 5 hours. My mind went blank. Not explosive, not enraged, just quiet, like something had gone still inside me. I didn't call her. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there, laptop glowing in the dark. The photo like a G*NSH*T I didn't hear but definitely felt. Eventually, I closed the laptop, stood up, and walked to the kitchen. Poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady. I expected them to shake, but they didn't. Not even a tremble. I thought about waking her up. She was asleep in our bedroom. Or maybe pretending to be. It wouldn't have surprised me. But I didn't go upstairs. What was the point? She'd lie. She was already a pro at that. And I didn't need any more lies. I had the truth in high resolution. I went outside instead. Sat on the back steps. The dog followed me, curling up beside my leg like she could sense something was wrong. I watched the night sky without really seeing it. Thought about how long it had been going on. Thought about all the things she must have said to him in that hotel room. How many times she told him things she used to say to me. Was she gentle with him? Did she laugh the way she used to laugh with me when we were broke and stupid and crazy in love? Did she complain about me? Did she compare us? Was I even mentioned? I realized then I didn't care what her reasons were. The moment she stepped outside our marriage, she took something I could never get back. Not just trust, that was the obvious one, but also safety. That sacred knowledge that even if the world went to hell, we had each other. That was gone. Burned. I tried to think back. Tried to pinpoint the exact moment we went off course. Couldn't. There wasn't one big thing. Just a slow erosion. A series of small silences. Tiny betrayals. Swallowed truths. She must have assumed she'd covered her tracks. Changed her passcodes. Deleted her messages. Turned off location sharing. She probably thought she was clever. Careful. But digital ghosts have a way of showing up when you least expect them. And this ghost, this album, was loud. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark with my thoughts. And what surprised me most wasn't the anger. It was the clarity. The certainty that this wasn't going to be a confrontation. It was going to be a transition. I wasn't going to be the guy who yelled, who made a scene, who cried on the bathroom floor. That wasn't me. It never had been. I'd loved Ashley with quiet devotion. I was going to end things the same way. Quietly. Precisely. Without mercy. Because love doesn't require revenge. But betrayal demands consequence. There's a moment in grief where something inside you changes, not from the loss itself, but from what follows. The planning. That's where I was. Somewhere between heartbreak and cold calculation. The truth had shattered something deep in me, but oddly enough, it also sharpened everything else. I didn't feel rage. I didn't throw anything or scream into the night. I just felt done. Done pretending. Done hoping. Done playing the part of the clueless husband while she drifted further into whatever fantasy she thought this was. I wasn't going to fight her. I was going to outmaneuver her. The next morning, I woke up before her. I brewed coffee, fed the dog, and went through the motions like it was any other Saturday. Ashley didn't come downstairs until almost 10. She looked rested, her hair tied up messily, wearing one of my old t-shirts like she used to. She kissed my cheek and muttered something about needing to get a jump on emails. I just smiled. Want me to pick up breakfast? She blinked, surprised. Sure. That'd be nice. I left 10 minutes later. Not for breakfast. My first stop was a notary public I'd found online. They operated out of a UPS store. I'd already emailed ahead and printed what I needed. Quietly, simply, I began making the cuts. Ashley and I jointly owned a home just north of Dallas. A modest but comfortable place with a large backyard and a kitchen she'd remodeled obsessively. I loved that house once. I thought it would be ours for decades. It wouldn't be. Before we married, I'd kept the house in my name. Later, under the illusion of partnership, I added her to the deed. That ended now. With the right documentation and a legally set up revocable trust, I began transferring the property. The new beneficiary? My niece, Jamie. Jamie was 26, lived 2 states away, and we rarely spoke outside of holiday texts. But she was family, and more importantly, someone with no connection to Ashley. She wouldn't care about drama. She wouldn't get involved. The trust once set up in her name included one key clause. Any occupant not listed as a trustee must pay 60% of the total living expenses or face 30-day eviction. Ashley wouldn't even see it coming. That same afternoon, I visited our bank. Quietly removed her name from our joint checking. The clerk didn't ask many questions, and I didn't offer any. I also froze access to the credit card we shared. Everything else, auto payments, utilities, subscriptions, was rerouted to my personal account. Passwords were changed. Notifications silenced. I updated my health insurance portal next. I removed her as a dependent and flagged her dental coverage for cancellation at the end of the month. Then I redirected mail forwarding to a secure P.O. box and contacted my HR rep to change my emergency contact from Ashley to my brother. By Monday, I'd ordered new keys. I changed the alarm system PIN. I set up a new smart lock and reprogrammed the Wi-Fi router under a new hidden network. Ashley wouldn't notice yet. Her devices stayed connected for now. But the back end was mine. At work, I kept things normal. Smiled. Took meetings. Delivered reports. No one knew I was building a silent fortress back home. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the part of the doting husband with Oscar-worthy commitment. I filled her car with gas. I bought her favorite wine. I cooked dinner twice. She smiled at me more than she had in months. Maybe she believed things were getting better. Maybe she thought she was still in control. She wasn't. I stopped sleeping much. Didn't need to. Every free moment became part of a blueprint, unwinding years of entanglement between us like I was defusing a bomb. Ashley's birthday was coming up, and I used that as cover. Told her I needed access to our family storage drive so I could print photos for a gift. She gave me her login with a distracted nod. Big mistake. In it, I found dozens of PDFs and invoices, hotel bookings, ride-share receipts, even saved chat logs she must have thought were hidden. One in particular stood out. A message from T.M. Can't wait until it's just us. Soon, right? Her reply had a heart emoji. That was all I needed. I printed everything. Stored it in a locked cabinet in my office. Made backups on encrypted flash drives and a private cloud server. Still, I didn't confront her. Why? Because Ashley was still planning a dinner. A family night, as she called it. She wanted to cook for me and Trevor. Reset, she said. Reconnect. I agreed immediately. Let's do something special, I told her. We've all been so busy. It'd be good to slow down. She smiled. She smiled like she meant it. And maybe a part of her did. That was the scariest part. Somewhere deep down, she might have convinced herself that what she was doing wasn't a betrayal, that she could juggle both lives and make it work, that I was just part of the foundation while the fun played out elsewhere. Maybe she thought I'd never know. Maybe she thought I didn't deserve to know. But she had forgotten who she married. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to leave no room for questions. I started working with a friend in legal consulting, someone discreet. He reviewed my trust documentation, my financial closures, the property agreements. Every loophole was sealed. He even suggested a not-so-small touch, the termination of Trevor's college fund. I hesitated. That one stung. I liked Trevor. He wasn't mine, not biologically, but I helped raise him since he was 9. I'd opened the account for him myself. Funded it year by year. Christmas bonuses, pay raises, spare change. All for a future that was no longer real. Still, I transferred the balance back into my investment portfolio and closed the account. There was no going back. And yet, every morning, I still said good morning like nothing had changed. I made her coffee, loaded the dishwasher, folded her sweaters from the dryer. She didn't suspect a thing. In fact, I think she felt more confident than ever. That's the thing about people who lie well, they get high on it. They mistake your silence for ignorance, your kindness for weakness. They think the story's still theirs. What she didn't realize was, the story was about to end. Not with a confrontation, with a revelation. And I was already writing the last scene. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't always scream when it ends. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it serves you dinner before it guts the room. Ashley's invitation to dinner came on a Tuesday morning. She called it a reset night, said she wanted to cook something meaningful for me and Trevor. She even asked if I'd grab a bottle of red from that little wine shop we used to go to before things got complicated. I agreed, with a smile. We scheduled it for Friday, one of the few nights Trevor wasn't working or gaming in his room like the world outside didn't exist. Ashley wanted to make it special, her words. I told her I'd clear my evening. I even offered to grab dessert. What she didn't know was that the restaurant had already been called, the table already reserved, the staff already briefed, and the envelope, well, that was already waiting in a secure folder in my bag. The night arrived with almost suspicious perfection. The air outside was cool, the kind of soft breeze you only get in Texas for 2 weeks between brutal summer and confused winter. Ashley looked radiant, I won't lie. She wore a silky green blouse I'd never seen before, paired with dark jeans and gold earrings. Effortless, confident, calculated. Trevor was already at the table when I arrived. Ashley greeted me with a kiss on the cheek. Public, casual, affectionate enough to perform. The restaurant wasn't crowded, just softly lit. We sat near the window, a clean white cloth across the table, candles flickering in glass jars, the kind of setting you use to paint over cracks. Ashley talked about her day, about new accounts and office drama. Trevor grunted replies between bites of bread and sips of soda, mostly disengaged. I played my part with ease. I laughed when appropriate, asked questions, smiled. Not forced, just hollow. Dinner was extravagant. Ashley had pre-ordered from a curated menu. Seared salmon, saffron risotto, roasted asparagus, those tiny rolls she loved. The wine was expensive. She poured my glass first. "You've been amazing lately," she said, raising hers. I just wanted to say that. I met her eyes, smiled, and raised my own glass. "To new beginnings," I said. She clinked gently. She had no idea. The rest of the meal passed in polite rhythms. Trevor perked up a little when dessert arrived. Some elaborate chocolate tower he snapped a photo of before digging in. Ashley leaned toward me mid-bite, brushing my arm. "Feels like old times, doesn't it?" "Yeah," I said, "almost exactly like them." Then the waiter returned, not with the check, but with a black envelope. He didn't say a word, just placed it gently beside Ashley's wine glass. She blinked. "What's this?" I stayed quiet. She opened it. The first document on top, a notarized property transfer form. Effective immediately, ownership of our house was no longer in either of our names. She read it twice, lips parting. "What is this?" Beneath it was a banking statement. Her name, formerly attached to our joint checking and savings, was nowhere to be found. The accounts were frozen, access revoked, direct deposits rerouted. Then came the college fund statement, Trevor's. A simple printout showing a $0 balance, along with confirmation of account closure. Her hands shook slightly as she flipped to the last item. A signed legal summary. In short, she was no longer financially connected to me. Our assets split, our ties severed, our future legally dissolved. Trevor leaned over, reading upside down. "Wait, what is this?" Ashley looked up, face pale. "Jason, what the hell is this?" I took a breath. Steady, clean, precise. "This," I said, "is your receipt." She blinked. "Receipt? For the last year," I said. "For every late night, every deleted text, every message from T.M. speech balloon. For every time you told me you were in a meeting when you were in someone else's bed. For everything." She opened her mouth. "Don't," I said quickly, calmly. "Don't insult me by pretending you don't know what I'm talking about." Trevor looked from her to me, then back. "Wait, what is he talking about?" Ashley reached for his hand. "Baby, it's not." He pulled back. I turned to Trevor. "You deserve to know the truth, kid. I helped raise you. I put your future in that fund because I believed in you. But I will not fund a household built on lies." Ashley's face twisted. "You can't just." "I can," I said. "I did. Legally. Permanently." Her eyes welled, but no tears fell. She was too stunned to cry, too exposed to react the way she was used to reacting. "You think this makes you noble?" she asked, voice low. "You think this is justice?" "No," I said, placing my napkin gently on the table. It's not about justice. It's about clarity. It's about ending something the right way when the other person chose to end it the wrong way. Trevor stood abruptly. I'm gonna go. Ashley reached for him. Trevor, wait. He shook his head, avoided her eyes, and left without a word. We were alone now. You planned this, she whispered. I did. You brought me here. To humiliate me? No, I said. I brought you here to end it. The humiliation is a side effect. Not my choice. Yours. She exhaled through her nose, blinking fast. You're seriously going through with this? I leaned in, looked her dead in the eye. Ashley, it already happened. You walked out of our marriage the moment you sent that first message. All I did was make sure the paperwork caught up. Silence. She sat frozen, still holding the envelope, as if she could fold it all away again and pretend none of it had happened. I stood slowly, placed $100 bill on the table. Far more than the tip needed, but I didn't plan on returning. I grabbed my coat, nodded once, and walked toward the exit. Just before I reached the door, I looked back. She was still there, still holding the evidence, still trying to catch up to a moment she never saw coming. And for the first time since this began, I felt nothing. Not anger, not pain, just closure. She came back to the house expecting normal. Instead, the locks were changed, the alarm unresponsive. After hours of trying, she finally got in with an old key, only to find an empty shell. Furniture gone. Photos removed. Every trace of our life together erased. On the kitchen counter sat a stack of legal documents, utilities and ownership officially transferred to Jamie's trust. A single sticky note rested on top. This home now belongs to someone who never lied here. Her voice echoed off the walls. There was no answer. Not from me. Not from the house. Just paper, silence, and consequence. A photo of the dinner table, wine glasses, the black envelope, her stunned face, somehow made its way online. It went viral. People called it the quietest divorce in Texas. The restaurant even closed that table permanently each year on the same date. I disappeared, no social media, no explanations. I left Jamie to handle the details while I paid in cash and tended to a garden far from the mess. I wasn't interested in revenge. I was interested in peace. And I found it.